Yo. So I guess I'm going to start on my cylinder head. I got all the machine work done to it. He did a 4-angle valve job on the seats. And put all new guides in it. All the exhaust guides on this head were toast. I bought this head for like 50 bucks so I could just rebuild it and keep the other one I have on the engine that's in the car. I bought a cam gear for it because I'm sure it's going to be retarded too much, because as soon as you resurface the head and the block, usually your cam timing gets a little too far retarded. 2 to 3 degrees is probably normal, and this cam gear is just a hair smaller. It's not much, you can barely tell. I put some marks on it too, because that's where the factory marks are. But anyways, on with it. I made my own notches. I'll probably make 2 more on the other side. I went to the hardware store and got some keys, and I put them in here. I would not use this one because it's not tall enough, the square key. So that'll just wear out this groove, because the factory one's got the key slot in the gear. So this aftermarket one, I got to get a key, and I tried a different key from the hardware store, and that one doesn't really fit right either. It's too tall. I'd have to file it down, and there's a groove. It's kind of tapered right here, kind of like this one, but it's wrong. So I would have to modify this key to make it work. So I'm ordering a B series key for this because apparently it's going to work just fine. And another problem I have with this eBay gear, I don't know, it doesn't have any markings on it, but I saw one on eBay for twice as much money that had blocks stamped on it. So this is basically a knockoff blocks gear. I just set up some cards so they're both the same height, because it's got the bolts on here, so I'm gonna make up for it. And I just want them about the same height, which they are. And you can see this is wrong. So this eBay gear is wrong. Actually, I got this upside down. There, like that. So I can just lay a file across here and look at how much farther it sticks out. That's completely wrong. If I run this, my belt's going to be out of alignment, and it's probably going to be sticking out. It's probably not going to ride on the whole gear. So I'm going to measure this and take it apart and bring it to a machine shop and have them machine it. I'm not going to bother getting a different gear. This is a really inexpensive gear, and there's other ones that might work better, but I'll end up spending more money on them anyways, so I don't know. I sent a message to the seller. This is a really common gear you find on eBay, and they're probably all the same, and they're probably all going to be like this. So I messaged the seller and just told him that it's wrong, and he hasn't gotten back to me. Supposedly he's on vacation or something. So I'm just going to get a feeler gauge. I'm going to measure the distance here, and I'm going to take this to my machinist, and I'm going to have him machine the same amount off of this nose. So I just got a stack of feeler gauges. And I just kept on taking out 2 on one side and adding 2 on the other until I got to the right distance. So this is about right where I'm at. All these feeler gauges. So I'm just going to add all these together. I'm going to tell my machinist to cut that much out of this one, and I should be in the ballpark. So I'm actually going to unbolt this gear. I'll unbolt this, so I just give them this chunk of aluminum and just have them cut it off the back. I got some Bosch 1000cc EV14 injectors. They say Fomico on them. They're probably for like a Cobra or something. I might need top hats for these, I'm not sure. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, so I'm gonna see if these fit. Well, these O-rings are definitely too big. They kind of fall in there. I got little pre-filters in here, and that don't really fit, so I won't be using those. Maybe I can run smaller O-rings and just run these. They're a little different. Let's see if I got some O-rings for these things. I don't really want to run aftermarket top hats unless I absolutely have to. I don't think I absolutely have to. Those look pretty close to the same diameter. Just gonna slap one of these O-rings on here. Kind of seals. I just went through an O-ring assortment, and the factory O-ring that came out of the fuel rail is on the top, and I just put a smaller one on the bottom just to make up for the gap, and it looks like it's gonna fit just fine. It should seal really nice. So I'm not going to use top hats for that. And now for this, I got to get these to fit in here. And obviously that's not going to work like that. Okay, it looks like I got my fuel injector dilemma figured out. I got some O-rings laying around from God only knows what, and they're thicker than the factory seals. So I can take a washer and put it on here like this and put this seal on, and it's just a hair taller than the factory injectors, which is good because it's going to get smushed down really nice. So I got these Ford injectors off of eBay for a really good price. Initially I put this big thick washer on here, and this big thick O-ring I got from something. It's probably some other kind of Honda or something, I don't know. But there's a little ridge in here, and it doesn't go around here. It doesn't, I want it to go all the way around this body just because it'll fit a little bit better. It's a hair loose. And it's really no big deal because I found some O-rings off of I don't know what, and they're just a little bit thicker and a little bit bigger, and I put them on here and they fit in the hole. They fit in the hole of my intake just perfect. So I'm going to want to use these, which I just had laying around. I don't know what from. I think they're from like a 3.4 liter intake gasket set or something. So this I'm going to do away with. And I got an O-ring. I already told you about that. I put an O-ring on here, and then I'm going to use the factory O-ring off of the other injectors and put it on top of that. I got some machine washers in 1/2 inch, and they're just a little bit too small, so I'm going to Dremel these out, and they're a little skinnier than these washers that I tried earlier, and these are just a little fatter too, so there's a little bit of, I don't know, it's like a little floppy. So I'm going to tighten that up by just Dremeling these out a little bit. And then that little That little groove on the inside of these should seal on here too. Yeah, I just used some stone wheel that came with this Dremel kit. And that's what I got. There's my Ford/Honda injector. It's actually going to seal on this O-ring. It's perfect. This saved me a couple $100 compared to getting the fancy stuff that's made to fit. I got some plug and play adapters for these too. So these will just plug right into my Honda connectors. I don't have to cut any wires, which is nice. I brought my engine in my garage. The super clean part on the assembly is all done, so I didn't want to carry this thing out here by myself with the head on it either. That'd be kind of heavy. So now I got to put the head on the block. I got the cheapest engine gasket set I could find on eBay, and a JE Pro Seal head gasket, which is the most expensive head gasket you can find. I got some ARP head studs here. Fancy sticker. I have the assembly lube from the rod bolts, so I'm going to keep this around. This is always nice to have. Break out the brake cleaner. I want to make sure there's nothing on this surface. Can't have any grease or particles of anything on here, because if you do, the coating that's on the MLS gasket, it might not stick right. So I got a nice clean pair of gloves I'm using too. It's obviously clean, there's nothing coming up, but still, better safe than sorry. My paper towel's coming apart, it's a little fuzzy. These are new gloves too, so I'm not getting any oils from my hands on this surface either. Nice. Head pins go on the front exhaust side. Looks like this got a little bent in shipping, but it should be okay. It's not creased or anything. Try not to touch it. Now I got my pistons down a little bit, and I want to keep it that way until I put my timing stuff on, because I don't want these valves hitting the pistons. Now I just need to carefully put this on. Carefully. Look down in the holes and just try to line them up. Like that. Now there's a little Allen on these. It looks to be about a 4mm. Those face up, of course. I gotta fill these threads up. Oops, I actually gotta fill up both sides. Now I want to screw these down just finger tight. So I just make sure they're just a little bit loose. And that'll be just fine. If you reef them down and get them tight, you might not get the proper torque. You could torque it all down and they could move. You don't want to do that. You want them to move while you're torquing them. Yeah, the machinist, he already preset the valve lash and everything for me too. I kind of wanted to do it because it'd be cheaper, but he just went ahead and did it, so less work I gotta do. I thought he was going to leave the whole valve train all disassembled for me to put together, but that didn't happen. Just double checking them. They're all hand tight. I'm going to lube these washers too, just because I can. I'll put just a little bit on the bottom. Oh, shit, hit the ground. Same with these nuts. I'm going to put a little bit on the bottom of them. 12.12 millimeter. This ARP lubricant, a little bit goes a long ways. I probably still got about almost half of this package left, which is nice because I can use it for other stuff. And I'm just going to zero all of these. You want to torque them in the center and work your way out. I'm not going to get real critical about what a book says. You just crisscross them. I'll be using 2 different torque ranges, 1/2 inch for later. I'm going to start off tightening these down to 10. Actually, I'm just going to zero them again. And then I'll go 10. I'm just squishing this down little by little. I'll do 20 now. I'll just keep going up just progressively, little by little. I don't know, 40 sounds good. 37 I think I set this at. Who cares? It's progressive. Just double checking them, make sure I got them all. Then I'll do 50. I'll do my final 60 with the 1/2 inch. I'm going to double check them all. Usually when you keep clicking them, sometimes they all want to go a little more. I'm going to just keep clicking on them until they feel nice and sturdy. Yeah, a few of these, they got to go a little tighter after I torque them. It's typical. Some people just torque these to 60 and just forget them, but you should always go over them a couple of times. Because these things always feel like squishing a little more usually. They're nice and solid now. I got the best head gasket money can buy. I got 2 perfectly flat machine surfaces. And I have calibrated my torque wrenches, so it's all good. That should be mint. I got my camshaft sprocket back. Cut the back of it 85 thousandths. So now it sits perfect. This key don't fit quite right though. I got a Honda key. Here's the part number. So that one I got from the hardware store, I just clamped these 2 together and I'm just filing this down ever so slightly so I can get the right profile. And it's going to be a little bit deeper. So hopefully this one I'm making. I'm using the key for a key. I almost got it. I'm going to try that. Well, I made my own cam gear. That's what I ended up with. Here's the stock one. Here's the one I modified. So it's a big difference. I put the stock key in there and look at all that slop I got in there. It's way wrong. Here's what my aftermarket one's like. I actually gotta tap it in just a little bit. Once it's in though, it's not going anywhere. Fits real nice. So I'm probably the only guy that's got one of these aftermarket eBay cam gears that are actually going to work the way they're supposed to. That's what I'm figuring. Time for a little camshaft seal action. Put a little oil on this seal. 1.25 inch socket. That's good. Yep, don't forget the cam seal. I probably got like 1.5 to 0.3 of an inch before this key hits this cam, so it's not going to move around at all. Make sure there isn't any oil on this camshaft bolt. I'm going to put a little red Loctite on here because it's better safe than sorry. I can torque this to 27 foot-pounds. I'm just going to snug a few of these up. Leave it kind of zero-ish. I'm going to put the spark plugs in next. A lot of people say these work really good. I set the gap to 25/1000 of an inch. I might want to go a little tighter, but I'm not going to. If this starts blowing off the spark when it gets dyno, I'll close them up a little bit then. Hopefully it'll be okay. I actually should make them a little tighter. I guess a lot of people are running like 22. I just want to close up these cylinders. I feel really good about that. And for some reason, that one don't want to start. And neither is that one. What's going on there? And neither does that one. What is up? I don't ever torque these either. I always just feel the crush rings. I'll just tighten it down, and they're supposed to be like 15 to 18 pounds. As soon as the crush rings crush, I just do a little more. That's just how I've been doing them forever and ever. Because sometimes you can torque these suckers down and these rings don't crush on them. These rings right here. Why don't you start? Oh no. Oh no, what is going on? Oh, these don't feel right at all. I never chased these either. Yeah, that one's going in. Oh, that don't feel right at all. A couple of these are boogered up. Why? Brand new rebuild and I'm chasing threads. That's kind of spooky. No! I'm gonna start freaking out. I will be back. I think I got this one started. I'm using a regular tap. Just putting it upside down so gravity, everything falls down. Oh yeah, this one I got. Little bastard. It just boogered up just a little bit. Okay. I'm going to get this VTEC solenoid on here and then I can prime it. I cleaned my VTEC solenoid. I made sure there's no debris in there or anything. I got a new gasket for that. New gasket with a screen in it. All these bolts get tightened up. 9 foot-pounds. 108 inch-pounds that would be. You got a spring in here, you drop that down in the hole. Got a little plunger here. There's little pistons on it. I want to put a little bit of oil on them. There. Got a new seal for this. These don't come in the head gasket set either. You gotta buy them separate. See a boo-boo. I didn't put this cover on. Oh. Oh. Big bad bummer. I gotta take this camshaft gear back off. Oh my god, it's hitting my gear. What a bunch of shit. Guess I gotta do a little trimming action here. Give it up for the aftermarket junk. I'll try not to give myself stitches. Winning. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to use a pressure pot and prime the system. I'm going to run 1040 for the life of the... Show you fellas what a pressure pot's all about. Got a Fram filter because everybody talks shit about them. I put a little bit of oil in here because I can. I'm just going to grease this seal a little bit. I got a pressure pot here. I kind of made this. This was an old can for cleaning AC systems when you did retrofits with from R12 to 134. I cleaned the inside really good. So there's nothing in this thing. These are just fuel injection fittings. I can also put gasoline in this, like if a fuel pump goes bad, and I can hook this up to the fuel rail and I can run pressure and gas in it and it'll run the car so I can drive it a block or two. But I got one fitting here. This is 1/8 inch pipe and this is not. This is like British tapered pipe. They call it BTSP or something. British, I don't know. It's freaking British. So I'm not going to put thread sealant or anything on here. And this thing will barely start. I just want to get a couple threads on there. I'm not going to get carried away. I just don't want the thing to pop off. I still want to keep the existing threads in good shape. They're pretty close, but they're not the same. So, I don't know, I got about a thread on there, it's fine. I'm going to put about a quart of oil in this pressure pot. I got a regulator here. I can hook that up to this side. I'm just going to run like 40 pounds through this roughly. So I'll just turn this regulator all the way down. Oh shit, didn't want that to happen. And I'm going to turn this up to, I don't know, 40 pounds. So I should start seeing oil spilling all over the place. It's going to get down in the oil pump. It's basically going to back flush it down into the oil pump, and it's going to run it right up into the head. I can just leave it sit like this for however long it takes. I can see it start to splurge. See, it's starting to come out, the rocker arms. Starting to drool out just a little bit. I should activate VTEC. Get some oil pumping through the VTEC solenoid. Yeah, it's pumping through. It's getting oil. It's getting all the way up into the head, all the way down into my oil pump. Oh, that's it. Okay, I got nothing but air. It's primed. I'm going to be feeding my my turbocharger through this line. So I got to run an oil line. This is where my pressure switch goes. For now, I'm just going to screw the switch in just so I don't get a big oil leak, because there's a ton of oil up there right now. So that's just kind of plugging the hole for now. I guess it's timing belt time. I got an Ej8 water pump because they're the best. Japan. I got a Mitsubishi timing belt. Stock is either Mitsubishi or Gates. And then I got a GMB tensioner because it's a Korean piece of crap and it don't need to be special. I'm just going to lube a little bit of silicone paste on the seal. Looks like I can just take my fancy sprocket and just pry it around. Now I can do this because I still have my pistons almost halfway down, so these valves aren't going to touch. Now I made marks on the front and the back, and the marks on the front that I made, they're level with the back of the deck. Zero should be pointing straight up with this mark here. Now I got an arrow right here and a mark right here, so I just turn this with a 17 millimeter, and my piston will be a top dead center then. I want to go real slow because if I feel anything stupid, I want to stop. I don't want to hit any valves. Wow, that sucker's tight. I need to get this just a little bit tight. That way I can move this around. Now remember, in no way am I telling you that this is the right way to degree a camshaft. This is just the way I do it. Now I got the belt nice and tight. It feels really good. It's at 0 right now, and I actually drove it clockwise and then counterclockwise until I ran into 0 because I want this belt tight. I don't want to mess with it right now either. Right now number 1 should be firing, and number 4 is on the intake exhaust stroke. So that means this motor runs counterclockwise. So if I run it counterclockwise more, it should be coming down. The intake should be working. So the cam lobes are going to get tighter on the intake. And right now both lobes are tight. They've both been lashed. The only trouble is what I should be doing is I should make the lash exactly the same if I really want to be perfectious, but I'm not going to be that perfectious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this counterclockwise until these rocker arms loosen up. I'm just going to go a little at a time. They're coming up, and I can see these going down. So there's a fairly good amount of overlap on these bad boys. And right there, this one's barely loose. This one's still tight. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to put a mark. I put my distributor on here. I'm going to put a mark on my distributor somewhere. So I got my distributor bolted down tight. I put a mark on here. And this rocker arm is just barely loose. I can barely feel it moving. And this one's tight. So what I want to do now is back it back the other way. I can see these going down and these coming up. And both of these are good and loose. And I want to tighten this again. I want to go counterclockwise. See, this belt's really loose. I want to go counterclockwise because that's the direction that the engine goes. And I just want to move it a little at a time till these tighten up. Right now this one's tight and this one's a little bit loose. So right here's my mark on my rotor. I'm going to put another mark here. Just like that. I want to be directly in between those two marks with this crankshaft at 0. So right now I got a mark here and then the arrow behind the belt. See, it's lined up just perfect. And I can go back and look at this. And look at that. It's almost perfect. I can move it up just a hair. I just realized I got a little rotor play. I got to do this over. And I'm just going to turn the rotor all the way counterclockwise and make new marks and do it all over again. Okay, I cleaned these marks off. And I made sure the rotor was turned counterclockwise. And yeah, it's a little farther off. Okay, so as I suspected, I need to advance this cam timing just a little bit. I'm going to turn these loose just a hair. I'm going to move this advanced until this looks good enough to me. That looks about right there. They didn't give me torque specs on these bolts. I'm not going to Loctite them down because I might need to get moved again. Like, I don't know if I'm wrong or if the tuner feels like doing something, or I'm just going to tighten these to 17 to 22 foot-pounds. I don't know. Anywhere in there is probably good. I'm going to start with 17 just to see how they feel. And they feel like death. Oh, it's got like aluminum washers on it and they're crushing like mad. I don't like them. They're squishing too much. They're moving around like crazy. And they're cheap washers. I'm going to go to the hardware store and I'm going to get some real washers for this thing. This oblong bunch of cheesy. Gee, doesn't that look nice? All I could find was zinc 7mm. And I had to rat tail them bigger so they fit these bolts. Everything else was too wide. Just gonna take these out one by one. How the heck? How's that even a thing? So all in all, you know, I thought I was getting a deal on this Chinese knockoff. By the time I got it machined, that cost me more than what I paid for the dang thing. You know, if I would have bought some name brand stuff, I don't know if it would have been any better. So, there's that. I'm going to stop at 21 foot-pounds. Feels like I'm in the ballpark. Turn this counterclockwise. That's about perfectly in center. The mark and the arrows lined up just right. And just as I thought I had to advance it, each mark is 2 degrees on the crank. So about 4 degrees I advanced it. I'm going to put this on there just to keep it clean. And I will do some more some other time. Okay, bye.